Merhaba. İpek abla duyuyor musun beni?
Duyuyorum tatlım, duyuyorum.
Tamam, süper.
Canlı yayına geçeceğiz. O yüzden
Evet, evet, aynen.
arkadaşlarımıza söyleyelim. Sessiz alsınlar.
Hı hı. Hello, Sidem.
Hi, Elish. How are you?
Fine, what about you?
Normal, as always.
Bir 5 dakika daha bekleyelim isterseniz. Daha sonrasında başlarız. Arkadaşlar ben de o şekilde kamerayı açacağım.
Tamamdır. Biraz daha
We will
bekleyelim.
wait for another 5 minutes. Afterwards we will start. And also we have the live link to our Alumni Association's YouTube channel. So we'll wait about the 5 minutes and then we can start.
Okay.
Şu anda 24 katılımcımız var. Elif,
Sadece
şimdi sen karar ver istersen başlayacağımız saati. Ben
Hı hı.
sana bırakıyorum.
Ben birkaç dakika daha beklemek
canım.
istiyorum. Çünkü mesaj alıyorum sürekli.
Tamam,
ID
bekliyoruz.
isteyenler var
Hiç
şu
problem
anda.
değil, bekliyoruz.
Hı hı, tamamdır. Birkaç dakika daha rica ediyorum
Tabii ki.
sadece. Ama şimdi ben konuşmaya başlayabilirim eğer isterseniz siz de. Öncelikle hepinizin katılımı için çok teşekkür ederim. Bunun bizim için anlamı çok daha büyük. Böyle günlerde böyle bir etkinlik yakalama şansını verdiğiniz için İPEK Hanım size de çok teşekkür ederim. Aynı zamanda okuluma da desteklerinden dolayı çok teşekkür ederim. Arkadaşlarım da çok heyecanlandılar, çok sevindiler. Böyle bir etkinlikte bizimle oldukları ve destek oldukları için onlara da çok teşekkür ederim. Ben çok heyecanlıyım, çok da mutluyum bir arada olduğumuz için tekrar. Özellikle bu dönem tekrar bir etkinlik yapabilmek yani benim için çok mutluluk verici. Çünkü çok endişeleniyordum hani daha etkinlik yapamayacağız diye düşünüyordum ama bir fırsat olarak bu çıktı karşımıza. Size tekrar çok teşekkür ederim.
Demek.
Kısaca İpek Hanım'ı size tanıtayım. Gruptan da zaten konuşmuştuk. Çoğunuz biliyorsunuz ama bilmeyen arkadaşlarımız vardır belki. İpek Hanım okulumuz mütercim tercümanlık mezunu. Aynı zamanda okulumuz ortak eğitim ve kariyer koordinatörlüğüydü. Değil mi? Tam adı.
Evet, kariyer planlama koordinatörüydüm.
Evet, orada çalışıyordu ve aynı zamanda çok iyi bir tenis oyuncusu. Ben de kendisini o sayede tanıdım. Ve şimdi de Avrupa Parlamentosu siyasi danışmanı olarak görev yapıyor. Bugün de bizimle European Union Perspectives on the Coronavirus Crisis konuşacağız. Hepimizin de bildiği gibi.
Evet.
Bu şekilde.
Teşekkür ediyorum. Karamsar olmayacağız. Ve şunu da hatırlatalım arkadaşlar. Bugünkü konuşmamızı İngilizce yapacağım. Çünkü bazı yabancı arkadaşlarımız da var katılan. O yüzden yine yavaş yavaş gideceğiz. Çok detaylı olmayacak. O yüzden yine siz sormak istedikleriniz olursa bir Elif'cim chat box oluşturabiliriz. Yazılı sorularınızı geçebilirsiniz. Fakat şu an konuşma başladığı zaman sizlerden tek bir ricam kendinizi lütfen sessize alın sol köşede. Daha sonra konuşma questions ve discuss kısmına geçtiğimiz zaman sorularınızı sorabilirsiniz. Bu şekilde öncelikle bir technical information share edelim. So shall we start? What do you think, Elif?
Yeah, I think we can start. Yeah,
It's
we
up
can
to you.
start. It's okay. Yeah.
So just beforehand, and you already have okay, perfect. The chat box is already ready, and you can ask your questions, and we can continue with the discussion format as well. So, hello everyone, and thank you for joining this talk today. And I'm giving this talk especially from the European Parliament Media Center in Brussels, as you see from the behind, and it's quite empty. And as all you know that these are extraordinary times for all of us. I had never given online talk before, and of course we apologize in advance for if we face any technical hiccups, as all we are linking up from so many places. As I mentioned in Turkish, because we are having also many international students sign up, I will continue to talk in English. And I will give a short talk about in general ideas and about 15-20 minutes, and then we can continue with the questions and the discussions part. Let me first of all thank Elif, who is the chair of the International Relations Committee, for suggesting today's event and therefore inviting me. And I would happily, of course, join you in my old university physically at the moment, but this is the second best option in these strange times we have. And let me start introducing with a couple of words. As Elif mentioned, I graduated from Atılım University, and after I worked in many different sectors, always related to international business or diplomatic relations. And my last position was as an international business development director in a company dealing with international education. My current post is as political advisor to a member of the European Parliament, who was its vice president. And now I'm covering mostly external diplomatic relations as well as the development policies. Now I think it's enough about myself, and let's move to our main topics that we are all curious about. So how the coronavirus spread in Europe? After Italy confirmed for the first time coronavirus cases at the end of January, the numbers continued to increase. The original outbreak started in the ski region of Italy around Bergamo. As all you know, after confirmed cases and suspected cases of the virus were linked to people who were already visiting northern Italy and visiting those touristic resorts of the ski area. As we all followed and the developments of the spread throughout the different European countries. Now I would like to also give you how individual European countries took the measures. The coronavirus outbreak has spread suddenly to different regions and the countries, which prompt different courses of action from different governments. Member states took similar but different course of action to contain the pandemic. I would like to give some examples for the first stage of an action from the selected countries. As I live in Belgium, in Brussels, so I would like to start giving example from Belgium, especially. The first confirmed case was in, I think, end of February. It was confirmed in Brussels. And the Belgian Security Council, by mid-March, took the first measures and declared a state of emergency for the entire country. But the country was in the process of forming a coalition government. Under these circumstances, it was agreed to quickly form an emergency caretaker government with the prime minister. And it was appointed by the king. As you know, Prime Minister is Sophie Wilms, took in charge with the caretaker government. The first measures were taken by mid-March until end of April, and starting with shutting down schools and most shops. However, supermarkets and the pharmacies remained open, and other shops initially only closed on weekends. All the residents were advised to work from home, as well as the EU officials. We were advised to work from home, and it's about nearly 30 days. The second stage was consisting of more restricted measures by closing hotels, restaurants, sports, and fitness clubs, as well as the public swimming and the sports halls, including tennis courts, Edif. And unfortunately, the tennis courts also was at the beginning was kept open, then initially also closed. Conferences, events, festivals, concerts, either postponed or cancelled. But only individual sports in the open air were still permitted, and still we can do some sportive activities outside, but up to 2 persons. You cannot run with 3 persons. And let's look at another example. I have selected the UK, as the UK, although no longer formally member state of the European Union since January, but is for the transition period still integrated in all aspects of the European single market. So UK is still important. The first case in the UK was confirmed in February. However, UK government strategy was at the beginning to keep the schools and the shops and restaurants open as long as possible. The UK introduced the measures much more later than the EU countries. Hence, a wider spread of pandemic in the country with the resulting many problems in the healthcare system. So let's see now, as I have given 2 examples, and with the national levels of reactions and measures, now let's see how the EU responded overall. According to EU treaties, the European Union does not have the legal competence in the area of public health, which I would like to also underline and emphasize this. Nevertheless, the Commission made the first announcement on beginning of March, if I'm not mistaken, first week of March. However, Member States in the initial phase concentrated on immediate national measures and less on the EU-wide coordination. So Member States would prefer to take measures rather than with the EU and at the national level. So EU Commission established a coronavirus response team at the political level and launched a coordination between European Health Minister and Ministry of Interior Affairs. Of course, until now, the EU took measures and proposed implementing regulations in the areas of public health, economy, travel and transportation, crisis management and solidarity, and of course, which is important, education and research and innovation. To discuss all these details would be, I think, too long here, but I will give you some details and what these are includes. So the Commission provided directly support to the EU healthcare sector by providing 3 billion euro to EU countries under the Emergency Support Instrument Fund. And the Commission proposed and EU adopted measures to suspend the international travel. And now, a couple of days ago, also this was extended another 30 days. And inside the European Union, the Commission established a temporary border regime in order to enable the flow of the goods as well as necessary personnel. So in addition to that, the European Central Bank has started an emergency liquidity measure by putting money on the market, which is 750 billion euro for the economies of the member states. So as I have given you a brief information and what the measures had been taken at the national level and the supranational at the EU level, so how we can sum up all. Dear students, and as you know, the role of the EU is mainly to support the member states in addressing the crisis, providing recommendations on a common course of an action. The EU does not have the power to impose measures on member states in the case of pandemic. However, the institution can set up guidelines to help decisions of EU countries and mobilize financing to support the health sector and the economies. So at the same time, the Commission wants to avoid member states taking uncoordinated or even contradictory measures that ultimately undermine common efforts to fight the outbreak. Coordinations and the recommendations are therefore necessary in the areas of public health, but also transport, border control, internal markets, and the trade. After all, overall, the last couple of days, as I think 2-3 days ago, individual member states, as well as the Commission, now started to reflections on a gradual existing strategy from the current restriction. Perhaps you are also following from the news that Germany, Austria, and started to ease the restrictions and stage by stage. Well, it remains to be seen, of course, what the precise steps to normalization will entail. But what remains clear that certain restrictions, like probably on hygiene measures, will remain enforced for maybe several weeks to come. And overall, I wanted to also give you a brief information, and I thank you for your attention. And now I'm ready to answer your questions, and perhaps you can unmute yourself with your questions, and I am happily here to answer, and we can continue with the discussion format. Thank you. Hope it made all clear for you, because if we give it too much detail, so on the Saturday, I didn't want to bore you with all technical information. So Elif, it's now your, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Maybe I can ask something to you. What about Italy case? As you know, Italy wanted help from the European Union, but the help came from China. Why didn't European Union didn't help to Italy? What do you think on this?
Well, as I mentioned, the role of the EU is mainly to support the member states in addressing the crisis and providing more at the recommendation level, because public health, it was not under EU and still not under EU competence. So the member states are not giving a power for taking decisions on this. And initially at the beginning, and the European Council gathered, and you need to come to a consensus. So you cannot act as EU as a one individual institution. You have the member states, heads of states coming and agreeing, and then you take the action. So which was first of all this, and the second I would answer like definitely that the role of the EU is not now at addressing the crisis directly involved, because it stays under the national level, national measures. Public health was one of this.
Yes, you're right. If anyone have any question, yeah, Medet asked something from chat. Would you like to read, or?
Yeah, I can read out, I can see.
Mhm.
Macron recently said that if we can't get through this together, this will be end of EU and populists will win. What do you think about this? Well, as you know, we have a different, of course, leaders that has a different approach. But on the other hand, and you should not think only is the France, it's the only country that gives decision. So you have to bring all other member states on the consensus to take action. So we all know, of course, France, Italy, and Spain damaged and from this crisis, but you cannot take only example as the France, I would say. So that would be my answer, and I do not want to make it a too internal political discussion on this. So any other? With pleasure. Thank you. So are you interested also working in the EU institutions?
Yes, sure.
So.
And what about the
Yeah.
others? Yeah.
Yes.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, please.
I just want to ask you, after this crisis passed, inshallah, after we passed it, do you think Italy will gonna get out of European Union as Britain did?
You mean get out from the membership?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Because
never
of
to be the
none
case.
of helping it, as Elif mentioned, that Italy doesn't get that much helping. I mean, from European Union, as it's a member of that union, and it gets from China and Russia, like helping crews and equipments. So as Elif mentioned before, do you think that it will like leave the European Union after this problem?
Well, first of all, yes, and to be honest, and Saddam, and nobody was ready. Let's face it, and none of us was ready to this crisis, and we all implemented the best practices from each other. So at the moment, nevertheless, it's not the case of leaving the European Union. I think we should focus on, and I'm sure that Italy is on the other side, is on the opinion on that, that learning the lessons and invest on more public health policies. So as EU now currently put definitely priorities on the public health issues, as I will afterwards give you also a website that to see that what are the measures had been taken and will be taken, and you can follow it up, and it will be interesting to see. But nevertheless, it's not the case of leaving the EU. Opposite that, I think that EU will get over this crisis and look for future and become more digital, and we will see the future more bright and more stronger. I think it's not the case of only leaving because of this current crisis, because it's not only Italy, it's not only Turkey. At the moment, we are all in difficult circumstances. That's what I would say.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? So I also, at the same time, would like to share with the students that all of you, if you are in the future thinking of having internship, and there are some possibilities actually, and there are 3 options that you can also for maybe next year and maybe not this summer, to apply some internship programs in the EU institutions, which are officially that is announcing on the website. For the Parliament, we have Robert Schuman scholarships, and I will also write to Edith and then please share with all our friends. And the second is for the EU Commissions, is the Blue Book trainee program, which I strongly also recommend all of you to go through, and it's not impossible, and you will get a chance to perhaps next year or before your graduations to have your internship or trainee program here in the EU institution in the heart of Europe in Brussels. And also another alternative is the MEP's office. So you can individually contact with the MEP's offices in order to have your short-term, maybe even winter break time to come and have your internship programs. So these are my suggestion to you, and also do not think too much negative, and we have to see the future, we have to see the positive future. We all learn our lessons, and we need to see the future more digital and more green, more sustainable. So I strongly recommend all of you, and from now on, and definitely take this time as an opportunity for yourself, and to gain another skills, learn another language, and attend the short programs for your own career. So in order to prepare yourself for the future, and the future is not in the future is right now. And this would be my suggestion to all of you. And do we have any other questions?
Maybe I can ask something
Sure.
again. Yeah, could you please talk about your role in European Parliament? We are all curious about how is your job is going
How
and
is my day
what
is
are you
going
doing?
on? How is my day is going on? Definitely. As at the beginning, I mentioned to all that I work as a political advisor and for the MEP's office. And so in covering I have mentioned to you only for development policies, but we have different committees, delegations that we need to follow. And my main role is in my office, and I follow the development policies as well as the relations with the EU and the Kazakhstan and the Russia. And at the same time, I do external and diplomatic relations. And so my main role is, I would say, the follow-up in the policies and proposals by the either delegations or the committee. and inform my MEPs, and we take actions accordingly. And I follow the news, international news, and brief my MEP on the daily basis or the weekly basis, depending on his interest areas. But overall, that my main role is to follow all the recent developments and the recent political issues, and prepare it and draft them in a report.
It's pretty cool.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
If, sorry. I would like to know more about coronavirus situation in Europe. If you give us more details, that would be nice.
Yes. Sure. At the moment that in the European Union, like you mean each countries, or I'll give you some examples. For example, in Belgium, that I haven't checked today for the confirmed cases. Of course, it's growing, and there are more and more testing, and at the same time, the mortality rate is increasing. But the measures are implementing quite well, and the people are more aware, and citizens are implementing all the rules advised by the governments. And I think among all the EU countries, I would say that Germany reached in quite success, and they are started already the normalization process, and by opening the shops, and they have more testing and more prepared for the future. But on the other hand, we see the crisis in Spain, in Italy, and France, but Germany is even ready to offer some confirmed cases and hospital support the patients from France as well. So I think overall, when we look at the normalization process, would we take another a month or maybe 2 months, but the next 30 days next month, we are still not allowed to travel, and we have the partial lockdown, but afterwards I think that the normalization will quickly go back to normal and start. This would be my overall view. And on the other hand, if we see the Belgium is now reached the highest peak number, and already a few days ago, the government decided to open some shops, not all, as of 20th of April. And so we will also start here the normalization process, I think, within a month or so. So this would be as I said and mentioned in my speech, that all the countries took different measures and different prompt, because the level of the cases are different and the numbers are different. And at the beginning, all the member states and took action and closed the borders, which in my personal view doesn't make much sense, but this was the decision, and now we have to see how we'll go back to the exit strategy. And the exit strategy already introduced 3 days ago by the Commission, and I will share with you the link, and you can follow it up. The exit strategy with the EU member states, and will initially start in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you so much.
Can I ask a question? Another question?
Sure.
Yeah, to get the chance to work at European Union, do you need to get like specific level of education, like master or doctorate, or just you like recommend just for practicing is enough to get that chance?
For example, yes, it's the qualifications that's important, but also experience is much more important. So as I always, when I was the director of the career planning office, and I always mentioned the skills. So if you have right skills and you will fit perfectly. So there's nothing impossible, and you have to start from now on and plan for the future, and follow the goals, and then start gaining your skills or strengthen your skills from now on. It's not impossible. And we have, for instance, that I'm covering also, that might be interesting for you, the Arab Peninsula delegation, and we are speaking here for example, Arab speakers. That is this essential skills if you'll be able to speak Arabic and English and French and German. So this kind of combination. And if you ask me, what do you regret of that, I would say I didn't take it seriously of my French lessons when I was at the university. Better to do that from now on. So I would now definitely suggest and propose all of you to start learning new languages.
Thank you.
We have also another question from our YouTube canlı yayın. I'm sorry to say in Turkish, but
No, we can also continue in Turkish. It's okay. We can do it bilingual.
The question is in English, I think. Yeah. Do you think everything will go back to the state before the pandemic in terms of political aspects?
Definitely. I mean, I would say yes, nothing will be as it was before. However, I think we see this challenge as an opportunity, and this was, I think I published last week my article, and will be another article published next week. We have to see this as an opportunity. Either you go back to normal, but if you ask me, I would now reform my policies for the future. And we will have this pandemic and the virus now. It doesn't mean that we will not have it in 2 years and not in 3 years. So now the governments needs to take decisions and reshape their policies for the future. And it can be advantage, and it can be more digital. It can be more sustainable. It can be more green. So that's why, yes, nothing will be the same, but can be better, I would say. I do not see totally negative. I do not see at the moment this crisis will withdraw all of us. I think we have to always see the development side and follow the see the development side, and also for more digital side. So I do not think that when we come to questions that we will go back to normal, definitely, but better normal.
Yeah. We have also another question on our Zoom chat. I can read if you wish. Do you expect any fundamental change in the terminology of the EU at the end of the crisis?
What do you mean terminology?
I don't know, Doruk asked. Doruk.
Okay. What does it mean in terminology? So I will, so yeah, there was a Green Deal. Of course, the budget had been shifted from the Green Deal to this crisis. But I would also, not the terminology, but I understood, maybe if I'm not mistaken, please write the questions again. But the EU will focus on, of course, more digital Europe and more artificial intelligence and sustainable economy, and more focus on maybe the healthy food and sustainable agriculture and more bioculture topics. And that's what I would answer if that was the question. So that's why, as of now, I think you should all focus on these areas and then start off thinking how you can develop, how you can follow the topics of the EU and make sure they're connecting with the Turkey.
Yeah, thank you. And also, one of our instructors is also watching on our YouTube channel. She asked that she's also curious about the economical perspectives. May I kindly ask you a point of view in terms of banking sector through your observation in the country for the next 6 months?
Like inside the EU countries or?
I guess, yeah.
So as I said that first of all that the EU already took measures now the European Central Bank has started to already and liquidity measures and on the market, and as I mentioned, the numbers was the 750 billion for the economies. This will help definitely for the banks, and now EU and still continue to develop other supports for the economies of the member states and the banks. But the first initiative was from the European Central Bank, already introduced, I think, a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, thank you for
So,
that.
thank you for all your questions and comments. Our time, I think, is running out now because also I'm using the media center of the Parliament at the moment. So I'm alone here, and I'm looking also forward to any future and further exchanges with all of you. And I'm sure that with all combined efforts and determination, and I always say international solidarity, we will get through this crisis. And I'm so happy also to have this short and nice talks, all of you. And I strongly recommend all of you to stay at home. Evinizde sağlıkla kalın. Here I see all over with the signs says reste à la maison. We have to stay at home. We have to see this time as an opportunity for the future. And if you have any further questions, I would happily answer. And Elif has my all personal contacts. Atılım Mezunlar Derneği, Mr. Yaman has all my personal contacts, and I would happily to answer and to continue our exchanges in the future.
İpek'cim merhaba.
Yaman, merhabalar. Çok heyecanlandım Yaman abi sizi görünce.
Şu an açamıyorum. Ben ilk önce katılan tüm topluluk arkadaşlarına teşekkür ediyorum. Sana çok teşekkür ediyoruz
Her
bir kere.
zaman sevgiler.
Sen bizim sonuçta bir üyemizsin, mezunumuzsun. Arkadaşlarımıza destek veriyorsun. Ben her zaman desteklerin için sana teşekkür ediyorum. Kamerayı şu an açamadığım için de herkesten özür diliyorum. Çok güzel bir oturum oldu bence. Teşekkür ediyorum tekrardan sana.
Çok teşekkür ederim Yaman abi. Ben de bu fırsatı verdiğiniz için ben de her zaman desteğimi nerede olursam olayım, dünyanın neresinden olursam olayım göstermeye devam edeceğim. Bence buraya bir tane atılım yetmez diyorum. Biz buraya birkaç kişiyi daha alalım, daha da güçlenelim. Worldwide Network'ümüzü genişletelim istiyorum. O yüzden tekrar...
Sen oraya diktik işte, artık bundan sonra devamı gelir inşallah.
Evet. Evet, sizler de lütfen sağlıkla kalın evinizde ve social distancing demeyelim, physical distance uygulayın ve bu süreçten geçeceğiz öyle veya böyle. Gençlerimiz her zaman pozitif olsunlar ve gelecek daha da parlak. Dijital düşünün, her aklınıza gelen projeyi nasıl dijitale çevirebilirim? Çünkü unutmayın, Avrupa Birliği şu an bir hafta önce Türkiye'ye projelerle ilgili bir yardımda bulundu ve bu projelerde sizin geliştirdikleriniz de fonlanacak. O yüzden sizlere önerim, her aklınıza gelen projenizi dijitalleştirmeyi düşünün. Çünkü gelecek artık dijitalde.
Ben artık sözü çocuklara bırakıyorum.
Çok teşekkür ediyorum Yaman abi. Çok sağ olun.
Biz de yayın için çok teşekkür ederiz. Hepimiz gerçekten çok faydalı bilgiler edindik sayenizde İpek Hanım.
Ne
çok
demek.
teşekkür ederiz. Umarım tekrar görüşürüz.
Evet, spor yapın bolca,
Evet.
sağlıklı beslenin ve bolca evde de olsak hareket edelim. Bugünler geçecek, bugünleri avantaja çevirelim. Sizlere önerilerim bunlar. Her zaman iletişimde kalalım. Kendinize çok iyi bakın.
Siz de.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Teşekkürler. Bye.
Ne demek?
Evet.